Hello lads, how are you doing today? Today we are going to have a bit of a special episode. We're going to be talking about all the config files and stuff that I use in Team Fortress 2. It's been asked before if I could do this, and I thought, I have a free day, I might as well get around to doing it. So first thing we're having a look at is my autoexec.cfg file, and the first thing you'll notice is that it has these little execute commands right at the top, which has some other files which they refer to. The first one is max frames, which is my max frames config, which I use to make TF2 look all ugly, but allows me to keep this like nice smooth FPS going. And basically all it is Cal Manglia's config with a couple of things changed, not too many. Like I turned on shadows and I disabled a few things, but other than that it's pretty much just Cal Manglia's config, which I will link. Second of all, you'll see that it has scoreboard and PREC. PREC is a program which you use to automatically record a demo every time you join a server. By default, it's set just to work on tournament servers, so like Highlander 6s, 4v4, whatever. But I have it enabled on every server just in case something happens and I want to happen to count it. So, the other things you see here are just normal things, volume, setting my FPS max to 145, which is a bit of a controversial subject, which is poor English there, but I have a 144Hz monitor, which is nice, and you're meant to bind it to FPS max, something like 289, I think, which is times your screen thing times 2 plus 1, which is what you're meant to have. However, I can't get that FPS consistently, so I'd much rather cap it at 144 and get a consistent 144 FPS than kind of bounce up and down between 100 and 200. So if you can get like 300 FPS, you should cap it at 289, but if not, I'm kind of happy to cap it at 144. It's actually capped at 145, but it says in game 144. So, and the other things you'll see is zoom sensitivity ratio 0.833333. As you see, when you play sniper, you may have noticed before that when you're zooming in, your ratio feels a bit wrong. Your sensitivity changes. That is because by default, your zoom sensitivity ratio is 1, which is actually optimized for those 4:3 screens, which are the old square ones. So when you zoom in, it pretends it changes sensitivity as if you were playing on a 4:3. However, most people these days play on a 16:9 resolution. So if you set it to 0.833333, it'll have the same sensitivity in scope as out of scope. It's perfect. It's a really good little script there. And the other stuff you'll see here, CL, MVM status, blah blah blah. That basically means when you're playing MVM, along the top here, it will show the current robots that are in the wave. It's actually a really useful little command to have. And here we have my network settings, which I'm not too sure where I nicked them from, but they're kind of really generic ones. I set the update rate and stuff above where it should be. The rate's on a lot. Smooth's on. I do have smooth on. Pred optimized too. Interp is 0.3, and also 0.35. I do have these other options which I sometimes use. 0.015 is very good for hit scan weapons, particularly melee and like the scattergun, the sniper rifle. And no, wait, that's wrong. It's just good for the knife, basically. It's good for the knife because it's as close as it can to the server. Whereas closer to 0.35 is better for something like the Ambi because it gives it a little bit better lag compensation or something along those lines. And I'd much rather hit headshots than go for backstabs because they look better in frag videos. And down here you will of course see the transparent view model shit, which you can turn off. You can turn them off, and if you do, it basically means if you're bleeding or something, it disables transparent view models. So I have those in there. You can disable them, and then you won't have the weird motion blur people that some people talk about. I don't notice any motion blur at all, but some people say they do. So that's something you can disable. And going to go straight on to the Scout CFG file we have here. We have right at the top, just some generic shit, don't worry about that. I have all of these things that just rebind your all the keyboard keys and all the mouse keys to their default things for Scout, which you can find by going into your CFG file and going to config.cfg, and basically I just went in here, scrolled all the way down, and copied from here, about 69 from it, just copied all that into my Scout CFG file. And then down here we have some nice generic things. So I have it on Scout, I have left click bound to go to the scatter gun and shoot, right click bound to go to your pistol or milk or whatever and then shoot it. I also have middle mouse to go to melee, and if I have mouse 4 on my mouse, that allows me to shoot Samamble. And if I get some hype here on my soda popper, pressing mouse 5, the top one, is wrong actually. Pressing mouse 4 will allow me to do this. I can't remember what mouse 5 does. What does mouse 5 do? It's not bound to anything. Okay, I wouldn't worry about that. Yeah, mouse 5 just bound to throwing milk. Okay. So if I hold that down, it'll throw. Great, good stuff. And onto the soldier, CFG, we have pretty much exactly the same thing on soldier as I do on scout. I have it so left click shoots, right click shoots, middle click melee. I have it on mouse 4. I have this, I never use it, but if I really need to just do like a quick rocket jump and for some reason I can't press my space bar, it crouches and jumps and stuff for me, which is nice. And mouse 5 is just entirely used for the cow mangler, which I never really use, but it's nice to have it in there anyway. And now we're going to go into a bit more of an interesting CFG file, which I've actually customized for a bloody long time to get it to how I like it. So this is my Pyro one, and it's a little bit more complex, but it runs along the same lines. Where I have it so I have to hold down left click, flamethrower and shoot mouse 1, right click switches to the flamethrower and air blast, mouse 4 switches to the flare gun or whatever and shoots it, mouse 5 switches to the melee and swings it, and if I'm using the detonator for example, I press middle mouse and it explodes. Nice. It basically means if I can always have the weapon I want. So if someone over here is on fire, I can, even if I'm on my melee, I just right click twice and it air blasts them. Or for example, there I have my melee out and I'm being chased by someone, I can instantly turn around and shoot them to death, which is a nice little thing to have. And we go on to the demo CFG. Very, very, very similar to all the other ones. Most of them are quite similar. I have it so mouse wheel up goes to primary, turns it off. Mouse wheel down goes to secondary, turns it on. Melee, very simple, middle mouse. Mouse 4 and 5 aren't really used at all, they're just there. And yeah, Demo Man, pretty simple little thing. I quite like the Demo Man configs because there's not really anything special about him, he's pretty much stock, just works. I like having it so mouse wheel up and down goes to the primary and secondary though, so I like always being able to have my pipes at the ready. And the heavy config, also very similar to the Demo Man one. I have it mouse wheel down always goes to the melee, mouse wheel up always goes to the sandwich, and middle mouse always goes to the primary. The middle mouse and the primary is something I use in a couple of other configs because I like always having access to the primary weapon. I'm not too used to using 1, 2, 3, so I always quite like having them bound to my mouse. I also have a couple of cheeky scripts. If I hold down mouse 4, it'll switch to the sandwich and chuck it at someone. Whereas if I hold out mouse 5, it'll switch to the sandwich and I'll have a tasty little lunch there for myself. What a fantastic thing to do. I can also just right click. And now we move on to engineer config. It's pretty much the same as the other ones, to be honest. I have it so mouse wheel up switches to primary, disables view models. Mouse wheel down switches to melee, pistol, and secondary. And I can fire it if I want with mouse 1. I have it so mouse 1 and mouse 2 are unchanged, so because they just work, and I use, if I want to build a sentry or something, I just use normal building, demolish. I also have it so if I hold down mouse 4, it's particularly good for mini sentries. So if I equip my gunslinger, just hold down mouse 4, shoves down a mini and destroys the last one. It's a bit of a cheaty script perhaps, but I've used it for 27 million years, and Valve doesn't really have any problem with it. And one script which I made myself around the time that the Eureka Effect update came out that let you build to your exit was, if we just wait here for a second for this thing to build, how long do they take now? They changed it. It takes the same amount of time to build, I think. So if I press just Q by itself, it'll take me back to the spawn, whereas if I crouch and press Q, it'll take me to my exit. This allows me to get around using the menu because I actually never managed to script the menu. It never worked for me in my HUD, so I had to find a way around it. So if I just crouch Q, I can go straight to the exit. It's quite useful. I only ever really use the Eureka Effect to basically be like a scout, where anytime I want I can go back to, go back to spawn, get a cabinet, and then come back to behind them with the shotty. And we will now move on to the medic config. This one is pretty much stolen from Chris, the config Chris guy, who made a medic config. I have it so mouse 1 switches to medigun and heals, mouse 2 switches to primary and shoots it, mouse 3 goes to melee and swings it if I need to swing it. Let's get some uber charge here on the old vaccinator. I have it so if I want to uber charge, I press mouse 4 and it will hide the view model and say in the top left there, crits or uber used. And if I have to be using the vaccinator, reload switches, normal R key there, and an issue my friend has, which I actually solved myself, because you should solve it, is, oh, what medigun am I running? I've disabled view models. I have it so mouse wheel up and down, both show the view model, which is a very useful thing to have. Say you pop crits or something, you're like, oh shit guys, I have an Uber, I'm not too sure which one I have. Which one do I have? I've popped it, oh, it's a crit scree, who'd have thought it? I also happen to have it so Q fakes the uber charge if I happen to use it, or need it, and if I press F, it makes the medic play one of his voice lines. So if I happen to, let's build ourselves up to an Uber here. Quickly wait a second here to build up the Uber charge on these nice bots here. Just a second. And you will see at about 98-99% I will press F, and he will not say I am fully charged. It's a very useful bind to have. It's very good for Highlander and Sixes medics where they will be trying to count your Uber charge and working out if you have or not. Good for working out advantages and stuff. They can't tell if you have or not, which is useful to have. And we'll move on to the sniper config. It's a pretty vaguely simple one. I have it so up to Durati or whatever if I happen to not have the Razorback on. Mouse down to melee, of course, so I can run up to the heavy and just whack him in the dick with it. Middle mouse, switch my primary, always very useful thing to have. If someone, my melee out, someone charges me, I can go, headshot, which is very nice. Mouse 1, mouse 2 remain the same. Holding down mouse 4, pulls out the melee, swings it. Mouse thingy, top 1, that one switches to Durati and shoots it. Very useful if I happen to have the Razorback on and I want to shoot. Instantly get out of scope. I can, ever since they got rid of the ability to jump, if you want to get out of scope quickly, you quickly mash your melee button and it will put you out of scope nice and quickly, which is nice. And finally, the most important script, of course, is my spy script, which is huge fucking mungus. Look at all these lines. And I will be quickly going over these. Rebinds, same as all the other classes, pretty much. I also happen to have it so mouse F1 and F2 switch, it's gone to spy. F1 and F2 switch between my ambi loadout, this is my ambi loadout, and F2 switches to my revolver loadout. That's my revolver loadout. And what you may have noticed is that my crosshair changes. Isn't that neat? This is because I have, under F1, load item preset 0, which is A, the A preset, this one. I have it crosshair file, crosshair 5, which is the dot. The dot is crosshair file 5. Crosshair scale 32, which is the scale I happen to use, and exec no auto reload, which is a thing I made over here. Let's have a look. And no auto reload, literally just have bind mouse 1 plus attack and minus reload. That rebinds mouse 1 to plus attack without having the plus reload on, because of course you should know by now. If not, it is a super cheeky thing to know. If you happen to have reload on, or if you hold down R while you're shooting, you'll instantly reload, and it's much faster than no auto reload, and it makes the soda popper. Let's have a look. Look at this kind of broken animation. It shoots super fast because it reloads about 30-20% faster or something. And let's have a look at the other one. Spy. Here we go. F2 load item preset 1. That's B. Exec crosshair default. It's impossible to call CL crosshair file null in the in here because it uses 2 speech marks, and you can't have speech marks inside speech marks in source. For some reason, they're stupid, so I had to make an external thing here to change it to default. And exec auto reload, go over here, binds mouse 1 to plus attack and plus reload. So of course if I press F2, switch to my revolver, it'll have auto reload and the stock crosshair there, which is nice. And have a look, rest of it's kind of the same. F4 and F5, player ready toggle. If you need to rebind your, F4 to ready up in MVM or whatever to something, the command is player underscore ready underscore toggle. Rest of this, pretty much the same. I have it on spy, so let's go back to the ambi. I prefer the ambi. Mouse wheel up switches to the primary weapon. Mouse wheel down switches to the melee weapon. Middle mouse, I just have it so I can flick between them. I never really use it, but it switches to the last weapon. Right mouse, dead ringer. Left mouse, shoot. That's remained the same. I also have it so mouse 4 doesn't actually do anything anymore. I used to have it on a zoom script, but I never used it at all, so I got rid of it. It was a pointless script. I instead have it bound to nothing, so if I want to talk specifically to my Twitch chat and not mumble, that is my push to talk for OBS. And of course, mouse 5 pulls up my sapper and sap stuff. All I have to do is hold it down. If there's a building down there, it'll, no matter what weapon I have out, hold down mouse 5, begin to sap it. Very useful to have. It means I don't have to switch to mouse 2 and do all sorts of nasty stuff. I can just switch, which is ever so good. And mouse 1, 2, 3, 4 does the same stuff. If I mash mouse 5, I have it on its bind, which we'll have a look at down here. Ooh, bind mouse 5, that's wrong one. Bind 5 to med on, which is just what I called it, which pulls out your sapper and disguises you as an enemy medic, which is disguise 5 -1. I'll of course put all this in the description. I might make like a big pastebin or something. And if I mash that, basically, it means every time I counter spawn, I can just mash 5 and check their medigun. Extremely useful to have, especially if you're a 6s player. You can have it so you can quickly spawn as a spy, mash 5, see what the medic's running, go back to scout or whatever. Very useful script to have. I would highly recommend having it. Even if you don't main spy, if you play 6s, it's very good to have. And the other one, Pyro 1, I just called it that because I copy and pasted the last one, but if I just press 6, it disguises me as a friendly Pyro. It's quite useful to have sometimes if I just need to quickly disguise a teammate and I don't have enough time to, press this slot. If I just want to quickly press 6 and go, oh, Pyro, yeah, you can stab me if you want, enemy spy, that's fine. It's just useful to have, especially if I want to set off sentries but not have the spy shit around so they can see, oh, it's clearly a spy that's got its dead ringer set off, which is cool. What else do we have here? This is all pretty much the same. Q, bound to auto undisguise. Extremely useful to have. It is bind Q, undisguise. Undisguise is simply disguise as a friendly spy, which is 8 and -2. It basically means if I say this heavy over here is a payload cart, I can just run up to him and mash Q and I'll instantly be pushing it. It's very useful. Or if there's a control point that's nearly capped, instead of having to decloak, which is actually something very useful, if I'm disguised and cloaked, you can't normally undisguise without going through your menu and disguising as a friendly spy. You can't swing your melee out or anything, so I just press Q, and now I'm undisguised and I can just jump onto that control point. Very useful to have an undisguised script, very, very useful. Also, good to note, I can't really show it in item test without messing around with the bots for a second, is that you only take knockback as a spy if you are undisguised. So if there's like a huge sticky trap on the floor, say it's like Gold Rush, you're going out of the spawn on offense, a huge sticky trap, if I jump on it now with my disguise on, I'll just set off my dead ringer and look like a numpty. Whereas if I run up to the sticky trap and the moment he detonates, press Q, I will go flying because I'm technically undisguised, even though I have my dead ringer out. Knockback on spy, it doesn't matter if you're cloaked or not, it's only if you're disguised, which is useful to know, very useful to know. What else do we have in here? Rest of this, I have this random disguise script which I've had for like 4 million years maybe. I never use it, but it's there in case I need it. If I press C, I think, is it C? I don't know, I press something, I don't even have it bound anymore, but there's something I can press. Is it C? I think it is C. Yeah, if I press C it disguises me as a random guy, which is mildly useful, I guess, if you're running around like Dust Bowl and you want to be like, you don't really want to think, and it's like you're using the eternal rewards, you don't really have to think about your disguises, it's kind of random. It does end after a while, but you have to mash it quite a few times to do that. And at the bottom here you have my stock crosshair settings, which is just scale 32, crosshair 5, no, crosshair 1, crosshair 1 means enable crosshair, sensitivity 4, which is what my sensitivity is, and crosshair file 5. I don't know why I have that unbound, but I just do. No auto reload. Of course, I turn off auto reload. You should turn it off if you're using plus reload because. Let's have a look. CL auto reload 1. This is the speed of normal auto reload. If I hold down mouse 1, you'll see it's just showing the firing animation, and then does it. Yeah. However, if I switch to this thing, turn off auto reload. Now I have the plus reload script on. If I hold down mouse 1, you'll see that instead of showing the shooting animation each time, it instantly goes to reloading. It's very good to have. It actually means if I hold down left click for long enough, I'll have shot out all my bullets about 6 bullets faster than someone using auto reload, which is, that's pretty good basically. It's a neat little thing to know, having the plus reload thing on. And the rest of this stuff, it's all kind of generic stuff. Scoreboard. If I hold down tab, it shows scoreboard, and it shows my net graph on the bottom right in tiny. If you want to make your net graph tiny, you use, I think it's net graph proportional font maybe? Yeah, net graph proportional font 0 makes it tiny. Let's go net graph. Nope, there we go, net graph. And net graph text 1. There we go. If I do net graph, and check that 1 makes it really big. I don't like having it like that, so I have it on tiny so I can see the rest of my shit. I like having that graph just so I can cheekily be like, oh, I have a billion ping, that's why I'm doing poorly, haha! And the top right I have it so it shows my FPS and stuff happen to, if I happen to need that, or if I'm just feeling like I like having all the information on my screen. I used to have it all on the screen constantly. It actually turns out having net graph on and all this stuff actually drains your FPS by like 10-20%. It's stupid how much it drains it, so I have it all disabled now, which is the clever thing to do. Rest of this stuff, quite normal. Null move, I of course use null move because I'm a cool kid. Basically it means if I hold down D and then press A, it never stops me if I hold down both of these keys, or vice versa with forward and backwards. Very useful if I want to just do the cheeky thing here and do that. I also use a jump crouch script, so if I hold down space, it'll put me into crouch. This is mainly used if I want to can you climb here? Yeah. It's so I don't have to jump and press crouch to get onto silly objects. It's just a lazy thing. You probably shouldn't, if you're a rocket jumper, you shouldn't use these because it makes it really hard to C-tap and stuff. If I just want to rocket jump without crouching and get to, like, you know, on top of there, for example, without using up too much health, the jump crouch script is bad. However, I like it on spikes. It means if I see a big rock, I can just hold down space, and if it's possible in the Source engine, I will climb it. If not, you know, I won't be able to climb it, which is very useful. And I think that just about brings us to the end of it. I will quickly go over the fact that this is my HUD. I made this myself. I've been making it for about 2 years. And I say making, about, I guess it was 2 years ago. It might have been less time. But whenever YaHUD came out, the original version, I was like, this is really nice. It was basically just blank. It was white text, very, very, very bland, and very good for a base. So I was like, this is a good time to start making a HUD. So I basically got his HUD that he'd done and edited a crap load out of it, which is quite nice. Omnibomulator doesn't like it because he's a cheeky fuck and he likes his Noto HUD or whatever the fuck he wants to call it. But my HUD is superior to his HUD in every way. Of course, it is still basically just YaHUD. So if you're looking for a HUD, I would recommend going over to Omnibomulator's HUDs.tf site and looking for a HUD you like. Don't keep asking for my HUD, you're not going to get it. Please stop asking for a HUD. Anyway. That will be the end of the video for today. Of course, I use no hats mod. I don't have hats on right now, but if I do put one on, you can see the unusual effect, but not the hat. I like it. I like my hat. I like having lots of FPS. That's quite nice to have. And I use transparent removables, of course. Everything should be linked in the description below. I can't remember how long I've actually been talking for. It's probably quite a while. This might be a bit of a long video. I apologise if you were looking for gameplay. I will bring some out soon. I might do one next. Who knows? But I will get round to that soon. Hope you all enjoyed this little insight into my TF2 and how everything works. If you do have any questions, do just leave them below. You can't have my HUD, no, but I will happily link you any part of my config files now, because I really don't care anymore. That would be it, though. Goodbye, have a good day and all that, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.